I won't.
So if you allude to it, because you say a lot of tricky words.
No, I don't.
So
I say regular words that's tricky to you.
Oh, no.
Got him. Got him.
Ooh, child, things are gonna get lazier. Ooh, child, things will get brighter. Keeping your head up. This one's for you, Flip, because baby, after that exchange, you needed a little spiritual pick-me-up. Marc Lamont Hill checked your intelligence and your gangster in the same conversation. That man hit you with a dissertation and a death stare, and I felt the secondhand embarrassment through the screen. Hi, my name is Jade, and welcome to Get Into the Black, where we explore life, business, and culture our way, from Puerto Rico to the world. And quick side note, I'm also an Airbnb host here in Puerto Rico. So if you're planning a trip, I'd love to host you. You can find the booking link right in the description box. So before we get into this video, go ahead and hit that like button like it owes you money. Drop a comment so I know you're awake. And subscribe. Why be a hater watching for free? Support the cause. We're on the road to 5K subscribers, and we're trying to hit that by the end of the year. So join the fam and help us get there. Now, let's get into this video. Today, we got to talk about this heated argument between Marc Lamont Hill and Queenz Flip on the Joe Budden Podcast. Because that little scuffle, that wasn't just ego. That was a full-on collision between intellect and insecurity. Flip called Marc a sucka because he felt like Marc was using tricky words. But let's be real. He was just getting intellectually outboxed. And instead of saying, damn, you got me thinking, he took it as disrespect. That's not a fight about words. That's a fight about identity. And it's not just them. This is what happens all the time in our community, where being smart somehow feels like you're looking down on people. But in reality, some folks just can't handle when someone else's confidence reminds them of their own insecurities. So here's the breakdown. Marc Lamont Hill, who's an academic, a professor, and someone who's done a lot of work advocating for Black communities, is on the Joe Budden Podcast. His other co-host, co-star, I don't know what you call them, the other guy, Queenz Flip, who's known for being wild, funny, and emotional, starts calling Marc a sucka. Why? Because Marc was speaking in a way that Flip felt was too polished, like he was using big words or trying to sound smart. But here's the thing, Marc is smart. That's literally his profession. It's not an act. And I think what we saw was a moment where Flip's insecurities got triggered. Because when some folks feel out-talked or intellectually outmatched, instead of saying, damn, that's an interesting perspective, they go, you think you better than me. This moment here, this is textbook anti-intellectualism. It's when educated, articulate, or analytical gets mistaken for being fake, condescending, or disconnected from the real world. And I get it. For generations, we were taught survival over study. If you sounded too proper, you were acting white. If you used big words, you were trying too hard. But that's the trap. Because a lot of time our smartest, most passionate advocates get pushed away by the very people they're trying to help. Marc's been out here putting his credentials to work for the community, teaching, speaking up for Palestine, fighting for justice, but for someone to be insecure, all they see is he's using big words and I don't like it. It's wild how we can celebrate rappers who rhyme dictionary words but clown professors for doing the same thing. And then there's this other layer, how intelligence gets mistaken for weakness. You could see it in that moment. Flip thought he could call Marc a sucka, and Marc would just sit there. Because in his mind, intellectual equals soft. That's a narrative we've had since forever. The smart kids would get bullied, the nerdy one gets tested, Mark literally stood up ready to throw hands, and you could tell Flip was shocked because people expect that intellect cancels out grit. Nah, some of us had to fight and finish our homework before curfew. You can write a dissertation and still drag somebody if necessary. Duality exists. Sometimes the smartest one in the room got hands too. Don't let the vocabulary fool you. Because this Mark and Flip situation reminded me of something that happened to me. So back in high school, I had this teammate, right? Let's call her Cheer Captain Chaos. She used to always say like slick things, like you think you smarter than anybody, or you talk too proper. But I never took it too seriously, right? We was kids, we were cool, right? You know, it is what it is. Fast forward years later, we're grown. She's going through a rough patch, ends up homeless, and I let her move in. And when I tell you that inferiority complex came with her suitcase, it was like living with someone who wanted to argue every time I made a valid point or just open up my freaking mouth. Now, mind you, she's educated too, but because I'm confident and articulate, she couldn't control or belittle me like she's used to. One day, it boils over, we're arguing, and long story short, unless you like really want that story time, let me know in the comments, people. It gets physical. Let's say the girl lost the fight and the argument and then had the nerve to get her sister to come jump me. But the plot twist, they both got dragged. And then her brother comes in and is like, why are you fighting her of all people? That moment told me everything. Some people's insecurities run so deep that your confidence feels like an attack to them. They don't actually hate you. They hate how you make them feel about themselves. That's why I always say people project when they're unhealed. Flip didn't hate Mark. My old roommate didn't really hate me. What they hated was how we reminded them of their own lack, of the parts of themselves they never nurtured. Instead of saying, woo, maybe I learned something from this person, they turn it into competition. But here's the truth. You can't compete with someone who's not even playing the same game. Intelligence is not an attack. Confidence is not a threat. And if your first instinct when someone articulates themselves well is to call them a sucka or phony, that says more about you than them. So the moral of the story, don't mistake articulation for arrogance. Don't confuse intellect with weakness. Because while you're calling the smart person a sucka, you might find out real quick they got a master's degree in throwing them hands. Let's stop letting insecurities make us enemies of our own people. The revolution still needs thinkers and doers. Anyway, let me know in the comments, do y'all think Flip was out of line? And should I drop the full story time about my roommate fight? Make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe. And remember to stay smart, stay solid, and don't let anybody punk you for having a brain. Until next time, stay beautiful, stay blessed, and stay black. This is Jade, and you're watching Get Into the Black. Bye-bye.